Welcome back to another episode of Employment Insights with the NRTC. In this episode, we are joined by Jessica Loomer. Continue listening to hear about Jessica's employment journey, her balance on learning when to disclose her vision impairment, and how mentors have helped her along the way.
Well, I'm thrilled to welcome my friend and fellow colleague, Jessica, today. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much for having me. This is exciting.
Awesome. Jessica, share with us a little bit about your vision loss journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I lost vision almost 10 years ago, which is crazy to think. Time flies so fast. And when I was losing vision, that first year or so I was losing vision, I was actually employed. So I had a brand new job. I had started that position. I worked for a mining company, Metal. I worked for that company, started in October, and I started losing vision by early November. So it was pretty quick within that first month of me losing vision of starting this brand new job. And by the time March hit, I had vision loss in both eyes. So it was a pretty rough start to that position, but I was actually in that job for 5 years. They were incredible to me. It was a super small company, actually based out of Chile. We had a small office that I worked with, and I supported the entire sales team in North America. And it was a family environment, honestly. So I had a ton of support. I got a ton of assistive technology and never missed a day of work, and just honestly kept going. And because it was in the commodities industry, I actually got laid off 5 years later. So 5 years into vision loss, I had to face getting a brand new job and kind of the what's next. And honestly, I didn't really know what I was up against once I had lost my job and lost my vision, because I had never faced that. And so I was actually unemployed for a year and a half while trying to find my next position, and just kind of had the struggles and trials and tribulations of learning how to overcome vision loss and how to truly feel comfortable in my own skin, because it was different. I was telling a lot of people that were strangers that didn't know me. And so it was interviews and practice interviews and really kind of preparing myself mentally and emotionally and feeling confident that I could go talk to different employers, but also how I was going to carry myself. And it was an interesting year and a half.
And I know that you spent some time in a job that wasn't related to your career or your experience. So tell us about that and what you think you gained from that experience.
Yeah. So during that year and a half of unemployment, I needed to do something for myself. A lot of it's a little bit of soul searching, a little bit of digging to truly find that confidence to walk into that interview room and have a cane and sit down and have enough confidence that interviewer did not see my cane and they see me for me. And that took me some time to get there. And so I knew I needed to get back into the workforce. I wanted to feel that worth, I wanted to get back out there. And I was at a reverse job fair. I interviewed a bunch of places, and I think we all kind of go back to the things that we love. And I love coffee. So I went to go work for Starbucks, and it was one of the happiest 3 months of my life. It was awesome. Starbucks is great. They made sure that I was comfortable. We did a ton of things throughout the entire store to make it accessible for me, from gigantic Sharpies so I could label things and I could restock and things like that, to bump dotting parts of the store so I'd be able to navigate and be able to identify things without having to ask for help. They were extremely accommodating. And it really got my confidence up. I saw that there was a way to accommodate anything you want to do and really still feel productive and successful and part of a team and part of a community. And yeah, I hustled in that job. I flung garbage with the best of us. I made coffee drinks. I was up the front chatting with people, and I all of a sudden got to come back to who I was again. My dad actually has a picture when he came to visit me at the store, and I'm behind the counter, and he's like, "This is the happiest I've ever seen you." And that's years ago, and I'm a pretty happy person, but I was beaming. I was happy. I was confident, and I loved that job. That was my pivot moment.
That's awesome. I do love me some Starbucks coffee.
That's right.
But I love that, you didn't see that as a step backwards. You use that as a bridge to your future. And that's amazing. And I think you learned, you said a lot of lessons there. You learned confidence. You learned how to adapt things. And you just said you learned that anything was possible. So that's awesome. I know that during this process, you also really thought about and created strategies around disclosing your vision loss. So share with us a little bit about that whole, your stance on disclosing, how you learned to disclose, what you did.
Honestly, a lot of it was trial and error, but a lot of it came from me gaining confidence throughout that year and a half while I was looking for a job. And sometimes I would go in with a cane and sometimes I would go without a cane. And you knew it was bad when I walked into an office building that was full of glass and white chairs. So there's no high contrast. There's nothing I can see. I'm very much low vision. And so I knew, I was like, at that point, I was like, this is not even smart. This is not even safe for me. But then I learned at the end of the day, we're all people. We all have something, right? Like we all have something that we're going through. And I learned that like vision loss is just mine. And so it took me that confidence to get there that like, yep, I may be low vision, but let me tell you what I can do. And so I got to the point that I would walk into an interview and I just walked in and I sat down and I quickly like had everything organized. So I had a lower portfolio that had my resumes. I knew exactly what way they were. So when I sat down and whoever was sitting at the interview table, I handed them the resumes, the way that they should be. And I closed my book and said, like, so excited to be here. And I just kicked off and I didn't even acknowledge vision. I didn't acknowledge my cane because it's not who I am in the sense of my productivity. My productivity is based on my skills and my expertise and what I bring to the table. My cane is just part of my personality. My blindness is my personality. That's who I am. And they'll get to learn all about that once they hire me. But that doesn't affect who I am professionally in a sense of my abilities.
And I know you developed a specific way to share with employers or potential employers how you do a job, what accommodations you would need. Share a little bit about that.
So I actually got a lot of questions when I was interviewing, and some appropriate, some not appropriate. And I was okay with that because I thought the more questions people asked, the more comfortable they would feel. Because honestly, at the end of the day, I'm interviewing them as much as they're interviewing me. And I want to feel comfortable too, asking for accommodations and really kind of having that open conversation with whoever I'm going to be employed with. So of all the questions I kept getting asked, people would ask, well, what can you see? And what do you need? And how did you get here today? And all of these questions. So I actually developed a video with my voc rehab teacher. And it's a video kind of showing how I use a CCTV and what exactly I'd be looking for. And it's a video of me using JAWS. And obviously I pull the speed way down, but it shows me typing and it shows the audible of JAWS kind of speaking back to me and what it is. Though that video were helpful for other employers and interviews to be able to see like, oh, that's easy. That's possible. And so it kind of bridged that gap because honestly, there's a lot of employers that have never heard of assistive technology. They don't know what JAWS is or a CCTV or what does it entail. And that's kind of a lot of the big, like, scary of hiring somebody because they don't know. So if I was able to have that video to show them, check it out, it's not that hard. Look at how easy I can work. These are just 2 devices and 2 software things that enable me to do my job. And I'm still doing it. That was an easy, and it made the conversation way easier.
Right. And it was a short video, very short and to the point. And I love what you said there too, Jessica, is that not only is the employer interviewing you, you are also interviewing them, because it's so important that we remember that. Sometimes I think we're so desperate to have a job that we don't remember that having a job where we feel we fit, where we feel comfortable and confident is just as important. And so that is a really important point. So talk a little bit about then once you're on a job, how do you feel about disclosing to your coworkers? about your vision loss and the accommodations you need and some strategies that people can use to make that a good experience.
For sure. It's been a little different, especially with COVID, where there may be some coworkers of mine that don't even know that I'm visually impaired, and some that I do pretty clearly disclose to them just to ensure that we can work better together. I work in a tech company, and actually oftentimes I'll be doing design reviews or kind of walking through a process with them, and they'll say like, okay, cool, let me share my screen with you. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then they'll start saying, yes, this thing over here, or is it down here or over there? And I'm like, Mike, can you hold on a second? I actually don't know where over there is. And so I'll kind of like take a step back and like, if you don't mind, I can actually explain to you what I see in order for us to kind of better work together. And quickly they're very apt to listen in like, oh, I had no idea. And I'll share like apologies for kind of the holdback, but let's kind of talk about this really quickly now. I want us to be able to knock this out faster in the future. So I'll say like, I have low vision. My screen's extremely zoomed in. So when you say over here, over there, I don't exactly know where you're talking about. If you can maybe give me some direction on what part of the screen you're looking at, or if you could highlight, I mean, obviously there's a lot of things that work for different people, but you start to learn like what kind of navigational like tools and direction you can give somebody that'll say like, is it the upper left of the screen, the upper right of the screen, like something that they can kind of resonate with so they can understand that like you're so zoomed in. Oftentimes I will share my screen just so they can kind of see the magnitude that I am magnified at. And then they're like, oh, okay, I get it. You need more direction. And so we kind of have these like aha moments, and I'm just honest. I think honestly, that year and a half of me being unemployed and me really kind of gaining that confidence and getting back, the longer you do it, the more open you are about it, the more comfortable you get with it. And the more comfortable I am just saying like, hey, I can't see that. Is there any way you can help me out? Or like, can you point me in the right direction? I don't have any shame in it at this point. Like, and I think honestly, that takes time. I had vision loss for nearly 10 years. This is not like, this was a marathon to get to the point I'm at today. And it takes time to get to that point where you're comfortable saying, can you help me out? Can you point this in the right direction? Or, hey, by the way, Mike, I actually have low vision. If you could give me better directions so we can be on the same page, I would really appreciate that. And it's not a fast moving thing, and it takes some, so give yourself some time for that. But all of those conversations have really helped me ensure that everyone's on the same page. I actually have a designer that I work with. Whenever we're talking about something, he's like, all right, Jessica, I'm going to put this in the upper left-hand corner, so we're all in the same spot. So he always puts it there. And that makes it super easy for me to always find. And having those conversations early make it super easy. So now I don't have to stop anyone in the middle of a conversation saying like, I don't know what you're talking about. I can't see what you're talking about on the screen, because everybody already knows. And everyone will stop and kind of say like, oh, wait, hold on, let's zoom in for Jessica. And I'm like, thank you so much. And people are really, they're considerate. If they learn that about you, they want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable, is on the same page. Once we have that, we're way more productive together. And so it's been great. So I guess my best advice for that honestly is take baby steps, take steps to sharing that with other people and sharing it with employers and coworkers. You don't have to do it all at once. It doesn't come all as once. It's a confidence thing, and it definitely takes time, but you'll get there for sure.
That's awesome. That's brilliant. And I think that part of that was, it took some courage to just step forward and say, I can't see that. These are the accommodations I need. Let's work together. And it is about working together to meet those needs. That's awesome. Great recommendations there. I know that mentors and mentoring has been an important part of your career journey. So share with us a little bit about how you select mentors, whether informal or formal, and some major lessons learned from that whole mentoring process.
Oh, I love my mentors. I have a few mentors today, and they've evolved and grown. And the biggest thing for me, and the most important thing when you're looking for a mentor, is to really ensure that you have the same beliefs, that there's multiple ways to kind of do something. And if you're on the same page with somebody and of what you believe in, and I'm not talking religion or anything like that. I'm talking like what you find true to yourself and what you think is best for yourself. Because at the end of the day, your mentor is truly looking out for you and wants you also to be successful. So you know that they're the person that you can count on, because no matter what you're going to say or like what decision, they're not thinking about the business. They're not thinking about the company. They're not thinking about your team. They're thinking about you too. And that's been my most important thing to kind of look at. I've had so many mentors along the way of kind of people giving me advice and giving me direction, helping me kind of point myself in the right direction of what career path to go down, what industry, how to handle a situation on my team. You know, those are kind of things that I reach out to my mentor for, just to kind of get a second opinion, get an outsider view. They're not in my day-to-day, everyday life. And I think it's great to kind of have that step back. Another person removed to say, like, here's the situation, here's what I have. What's your opinion and how can you help guide me? Or what's your opinion if I went to my VP and said this? And they're like, oh, don't do that, Jessica. Or yeah, that's a great idea. That shows initiative. And you can find them anywhere. I mean, honestly, one of them was an AT instructor I actually worked with directly. And eventually like our working relationship just evolved. And he said he saw so much potential in me and wanted to help me get to the next level. I would go to lunch with him and we'd just kind of talk about strategy. And I was always kind of thinking of like, what's going to be my next move? What's going to be my pivot point? And so we would kind of talk through those things. And it's an evolving process. I talk to him here and there now. And today, one of my mentors is actually, she works in the same company that I do, but we work nothing at all together at all. But it's great to get her outsider experience. And I think I think I find them in the coffee shop. I think I'm a pretty social person. So you just start chatting with people, learn those people that you begin to like resonate with and that you kind of click with. I always look for people above me and kind of leadership levels as well. I often will be observant, you know, go into meetings where you are part of leadership is maybe directing you or kind of giving a presentation and see how they handle themselves, see how they present to other people or how they handle questions. Is that how you want to handle it too? Is that how you want to, like, what's their perception of like of your team, or what's your perception of them? Is that how you want to be perceived as well? And I look for those people that, I have high respect for in leadership. I see the moves that they make and the value that they're adding, and I want to do the exact same thing. And formally, yeah, absolutely. Reach out to them. I'll say I'm actually looking for a mentor. Would you be willing to meet with me once a month? And make the cadence I would say not as often, because you don't want to come across too forward, or it seems like it's too much of a commitment for them. But would you be willing to meet with me once a month? I would love to bring something. And I bring an agenda every time professionally, because I have questions. These are situations I'm running into. How would you handle it? These are conversations that I'm having. How would you answer these conversations? Or I like to kind of take my team and move it this way. And I want to be able to have this pitch for an additional team member because of X reason. What do you think? And I kind of have these, and these are all kind of ideas I maybe would have in my head, but I wouldn't move on them until I would talk to a mentor and say, like, give me your opinion. And that's been super successful for me as well for a professional mentor. Personal mentors, just kind of, honestly, you begin to see them as you start networking. I cannot rave enough more about how much you should be networking. Find anything, like whether it's a professional network, there's obviously a ton of them, and there are way more online now ever since COVID, or you want to run, or you want to sew, or you like cooking, like all of those, you never know who you're going to run into, of whether it's a hobby or a professional interest. And as you begin to develop those relationships, you will begin to find those people that you click with that maybe, I mean, you never know. I could be running with a VP of a different company that I would want to work for, or I could be cooking next to somebody that does something else that I really want to learn from. I think there's always opportunity. So throw yourself out there and just network. And even if it's virtual, I think those opportunities for connections are huge. And that's where I think the personal mentors come from. And so those two things, they really will help you kind of take you to the next level. They'll give you insights that you maybe didn't think of, especially if they're older or have a different position or a different perspective. They've been truly valuable. So that's literally been my rock in the last 5 years. I've made a lot of career changes. I've picked up my life in Tucson, Arizona, and I've moved to Denver, Colorado for a job. And I've never thought anything twice of it because it was the best move I've made. But I reached out to my mentors, my family, my friends, and asked for advice. And all three of those groups of people are super important to me, and their opinions are valuable. And I wouldn't be here today being able to be as successful as I am and how happy I am today if I didn't have those rocks to be able to lean on.
That's awesome. I love how you said somebody saw potential in you, because you are truly fantastic and super successful and just a total go-getter. So my next question, Jessica, because that was really great on mentors. So many important points you make there for formal and informal mentors, and having, setting up a meeting schedule, having an agenda, having specific discussion topics or questions. That really brings such value. And I'm going to say that I'm sure many people consider you a mentor as well, Jessica. And I think an important thing is sometimes people feel like, oh, I don't want to ask them. They might feel like they're going to be overwhelmed by another person asking them. People are honored when you ask them to be your mentor or you ask for assistance. They truly are. I mean, I'm super fortunate to get to be an informal and formal mentor to several people. And it's an honor and a privilege that I don't take lightly, because I agree with what you said. I would not be where I am had it not been for those people in my life. And I still have mentors. And so I think that you always have mentors in your life, or you should always have mentors in life, and you can be a mentor while also having mentors. So my next question is, thinking about the individuals who might be listening to this podcast, and it could be vocational rehabilitation counselors, it could be people who are visually impaired seeking out assistance from a VR counselor, or who are visually impaired, could be employers. So what's some advice or recommendations that one thing that you hope all of those listeners would really take from this, that, one piece of advice you have?
I would say keep pushing, honestly. So I actually share this often, that someone will tell me if they've just lost vision, so what should I do next? And my answer and question always to them is, what do you love? What's your passion? What do you want to do? And they'll respond to me and say, I don't know. Then I'm like, try something out. There's no harm in jumping into a job and realizing you don't like it. It's okay. Like, it's totally okay if you jump into a job and you're like, this isn't for me, then try something else. And I think that's key, is that it's totally okay to try something. I think it's respectful for the employee and the employer that, like, jump in there, give everything you've got. If you don't love it, it's totally okay. Try something else. What did you love from that job or that position that you can kind of take to the next position? And what are you looking for differently? And I think that's totally okay. And that's honestly like how I fell into my position where I am today, is that I found the things that I love. I know I'm really great at doing Excel spreadsheets, and I love that. But also I know I'm great at project management. So how can I pull these things together, and what's the outcome I'm looking for? And so talk with your VR counselor or think about, what are the strengths that you have and what position would that kind of be? And they'll be great to be able to help you kind of pick out, maybe it's a specific industry that would be great for you to focus on, or maybe it's a specific position, but just getting out there. I think the biggest leap is, I was just sharing this with somebody that had lost vision a couple of years ago, and he was having a hard time kind of jumping to a position because he was scared he would pick something wrong. And I said, there's no reason for picking something wrong, or no harm in that, because what's the biggest thing that you need to make sure you're doing next is still moving forward. And it honestly doesn't matter. Like, that's why I believe that Starbucks was a pivot moment to me. Instead of being seen as like stepping back or anything like that, me sitting in a Starbucks parking lot waiting for my ride to come for, gosh, like an hour or two based on that window for paratransit, that gave me so much opportunity to really kind of reflect and think back, what do I want to do? What strengths do I have? And where do I want to go from here? And honestly, I went from Starbucks to working at the University of Arizona, an academia position. No one thought twice of the position where I was going from Starbucks to the university. I was able to really pick right back up where I left off. No one thought of me having that lull in my employment gap. And no one thought anything of me having a retail job or a food industry job. They continue to see me continue moving forward. And so don't be so hard on yourself, get out there and try it. And it's okay if it doesn't work out. That's not failure at all. Failure is not moving forward. You want to keep being able to keep going and try something. And the employer honestly is going to find it much more respectful from you if you're like, honestly, this isn't working for me. These are my interests and this is just not my fit. And they'll be like, respectfully, that's fantastic. And maybe they'll say to you, oh, that's what you're looking for. We might have something different for you. Or they might say like, wish you the best. And I can give you a recommendation for your next job. There's so many opportunities that you could open doors with having that respect for yourself and for your employer. So keep moving forward.
And I'm going to just throw in here, this has been such fantastic advice. If you can't find a paid position, part of that keeping moving forward is if you can't find paid, find something where you're volunteering, because keeping that strong work ethic, getting up, going to work, doing projects, keeping your skills up, using the technology, using the mobility skills and accessing transportation. And I'm sure while you were out there sitting, waiting for an hour for the transportation to come, you're like, there must be a better option. And so figuring those pieces all out, all of those things just are so important. This has been fantastic. So to wrap it up, give us a life quote, motto, mission, something that you live by that you think has really led to your success. Not that you haven't already given us such gems, but one more.
I actually have this quote on a gigantic Post-it in my room, and it says, "Be fearless in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire."
Love it. Thank you, Jessica, so much for this great information and being willing to share and to share so authentically.
No, thank you so much. I love sharing my story because even though life is great right now, life was hard before and we all can get there.